notes are on solving equations using inverse operations. Okay, so take a minute and let's think about our vocabulary here. What are we talking about? Equations. Remember, what we're doing is we're trying to find balance. So equations are all about balancing. What's on this side has to be equal on this side. So if I have 1, 2 on this side, I'm going to have 2 on this side. They have to, equations mean balance. Inverse means backwards. Okay, so it means backwards or opposite. So if the inverse of being standing upright and standing on your feet, the inverse would be standing on your head, the opposites. Back is the inverse of front, right? Up is the inverse of down. So those are the opposites. And remember, our last vocab word here is operations. Remember, the operations are add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So the first thing we're going to do is solve an addition problem. And we're going to solve x plus 3 equals 5. So here's my equation. I have an unknown number that is going to balance so that each side is equal to 5. Now you guys easily know that the answer is 2. But it's important in these notes that you remember how and you learn how to lay out these problems. So remember, algebra is all about, equations are all about balance. So I want to get my x. I want to find out what x is. And I know that I can do it by subtracting 3. So if I have a positive 3 and I subtract 3, I now have 0. And all that I have left on this side is my x. I was adding 3 here. Its inverse is negative 3. So I did the opposite operation. So 5 minus 3 now is going to be equal to 2. And if I do my check, we know that that's correct. 2 is the unknown number that's going to balance this equation out. It's going to make this side equal to that side. So it's all about finding the balance. And what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Let's look at another problem. X plus 6 equals 10. Now remember, I want to find out what the unknown number is. And so I have to isolate it and get it by yourself. I need something that will tell me x is equal to what? So I'm going to do my inverse operation. And I'm going to take 6 minus 6, and that's going to be equal to 0. Remember, notice that I'm not putting a 0 down here. I'm just crossing them out. What I have left on this side is x equals 4. And that's what it's telling me. It's telling my unknown number is equal to 4. And so over here, if I do my check, 10 is equal to 10. So what I want you to do now is to stop the video, And I want you to go pick up the worksheet that is adding unknown numbers. And I want you to use inverse operation to find the solution. When you get done with the addition problems, I want you to turn back on the video to look to take notes on how to solve equations where there is subtraction. Okay, so by now you've done the addition. So some number plus 6 equals 10. But what happens if we have subtraction? So I would say x, 6 less than some number, is equal to 10. So what number here is going to balance my equation? I'm going to use inverse operation, so I'm going to use just the opposites to solve my problem. If here I'm subtracting 6, if I add 6 to both sides, remember what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. These are going to become 0, and I have x is equal to 16. So think about it. If I have a number line, and here's 0 on my number line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This says 6, -6, or just subtract 6. So I'm at 0, and I'm going to subtract 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But what happens if I add 6 back? Then I'm going to come back 6, and my answer is 0. So I'm going to go subtracting 6, but since I'm adding 6 back, my answer is 0. So x is equal to 16. Let's put that into our check. 16 minus 6 is 10, and 10 is equal to 10. So it works. So this is how you lay out and complete your using inverse operation to solve a subtraction problem. Let's do one more in our notes just as practice, just so you have another example of how to lay these problems out. So some number, 12 less than some number, is equal to 10. Because it's a subtraction problem, I'm going to use inverse operation to solve this problem. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides and add 12 to both sides. And now I have, these are canceled, right? I subtract 6 and I add 6, I'm back to 12. Subtract 12 and add 12, I'm back to 0. And now I have x is equal to 22. And if I do my check over here, 22 minus 12 is equal to 10. 22 minus 12 is 10, is equal to 10.